Well, we call it IS because it's the point. It represents the combination of levels of demand on the one hand and interest rates on the other, for which investment is in balance with savings. And this curve was first drawn by the British economist John Hicks back in 1937. And he said that in general, if you want to figure out where an economy is, you have to look at where investment is in balance with savings and where money supply is in balance with money demand. And this is half of that. When you are on the IS curve, there's neither deficient nor excess demand for the financial assets that are bonds, right, that are savings vehicles. They're a way of moving your purchasing power forward into the future. And thus, they're neither excess or deficient demand for currently produced goods and services as a whole is not pushing production up or down. So that if the economy is on this IS curve, it's going to tend to stay there unless something happens to change interest rates. If the economy is for some reason not on the IS curve, if you're sitting here and if the Federal Reserve suddenly does something that raises interest rates a lot to push you up here, well then there's going to be a big excess demand for financial assets, right, that you get such a high rate of return on them that you'll want to have them. And so then you're going to have an excess of planned savings over planned investment, which means there'll be deficient demand. Inventories will go up. Businesses will start firing people. And so the level of spending will start to fall. And pretty quickly you'll be back to a new point on the IS curve, that corresponds to the higher level of interest rates. We don't analyze that process in this course, even though it can take up to between 6 months and a year for it to happen. We just assume it all happens at once. It all happens more quickly than anything else we're looking at. So that if you're on the IS curve and if interest rates go up, that you're going to quickly move to the point on the IS curve corresponding to the new higher interest rate. Conversely, if interest rates go down, you're going to move down the IS curve. You're going to move down the IS curve to a level with a greater amount of spending and production. Which is, once again, back to Prime Minister Cameron and Bank of England Governor King right now. That Prime Minister Cameron is moving this IS curve back to the left on the grounds that Britain has a hypertrophied, wasteful welfare state that needs to be cut back. Mervyn King is thinking that if he keeps interest rates where they are and this curve moves back here, the British economy is going to wind up here in some place it really doesn't want to be. So he's trying to drop interest rates, or keep them low, or at least avoid raising them, in order to gain in terms of moving down the curve what you lose in terms of production and employment from the curve shifting back. That's the IS curve. That's using the IS curve. That's why it's called IS. Once again, how much of this has penetrated and how much of this is still sloping and skewing around in your brains. Why does the IS curve slope down? Okay. All right, a lot of A's, rather fewer C's, some D's. Both A and C are right. In the United States, it's primarily A, because we're a big country and we really don't export all that much. So that when interest rates go up, it's businesses that are less willing to borrow to finance capacity expansion that cut back on their investment expenditures that go down. If I were teaching this in Mexico, or in Canada, or in South Korea, or in pretty much any country around the world, you'd be focusing on C. You'd be saying that the big effect comes from the fact that when we change our domestic interest rates, we change the value of our exchange rate, and that as it affects their exports we do, that's the big impact of changes in interest rates on aggregate demand, production, and employment inside our country. But as long as I'm teaching here at Berkeley and not at Seoul or Mexico City or in Vancouver, the best answer here is going to be A. But C's out there too. B and D simply have gotten the sign wrong, right? When interest rates are higher, exports aren't greater, they're lower. Because when interest rates are higher, the value of the home currency is higher, home-produced goods look more expensive to foreigners and they buy fewer of them. And when interest rates are lower, businesses are more willing to borrow to finance capacity expansion. Money is really cheap. It's easy to get. You don't have to pay much back in interest for borrowing it. And so when interest rates are lower, businesses are willing to borrow and expand their investment purchases. So let's try this again. These are going to be problem set 5 questions, as you're aware. Let's see how you can do. This time we're raising long-term and real risky interest rates by 2%. What's going to happen? What's going to happen to Y? Okay, that's good. 50. Telegraphed it. Okay. You have 12 latecomers clicking the high probability one, which is generally a good strategy. But it's also a good strategy that leads to financial bubbles, crashes, and depressions as people start investing in things just because other people are investing in them. Here, though, it's the right answer. That Y is going to fall by 0.45 trillion a year. Let's see why. Well, we know it's going to fall because interest rates are going up. And interest rates going up means aggregate demand is going to go down. We have our multiplier terms in the denominator here. We had a tax rate of 25%, a marginal propensity to consume of 0.6, which when multiplied by 1 minus 0.25 gives us 0.45. 1 minus 0.45 is 0.55. Add on this weird little export thing, and you get close to 2/3, which means your multiplier is going to be 1.5. Your change in the numerator is then going to produce about 1.5 times as large a change in real GDP. What's the change in real GDP? Well, you had an interest sensitivity of investment spending to the interest rate of 10. You had an interest sensitivity of exports to the interest rate of 0.5, and you had a sensitivity of the exchange rate to the interest rate of 10. Add those together and you get minus 15 times plus 0.02 equals minus 0.3 over 0.67 equals minus 0.45, means the level of real GDP falls by a little less than half $1 trillion. We actually, and this is about right for the multiplier in the United States, we actually in 2008, 2009 got about twice as big a change in the R that matters. That because of the financial crisis, real long-term risky interest rates went up by 4 percentage points. The interest rates which businesses could borrow, if they could borrow at all, went up by 4 percentage points relative to what they had been early in 2008. And with these parameters, that produced a fall in real GDP of almost $900 billion. It was the fact that it was 0.44 percentage points rather than 2 percentage points that Christy Romer now regrets not having seen how big the impact on the cost of capital would be. But if you'd given one of us this model and told us the financial crisis is ultimately going to raise the whole configuration of interest rates by an amount that's about 4 percentage points worth of interest rate increases in this model, then we've been able to predict correctly how deep our current recession has turned out to be. And that brings me to the end of the investment savings part. Now we move on to what's happening in financial markets, to the liquidity money part, to why is it that the real interest rate went up, the part of which businesses could borrow for the long term went up by so much in fall of 2008. But rather than start this thing now with only 4 minutes left, let me let you go and see you again on Tuesday.